When you go to school and they ask you what are the basic amenities of life, you write food, clothes and shelter, and they will mark it for you. That's a lie. Those are the basic amenities of life in the West and not in Africa. Basic amenities of life is things that you cannot survive without. Basic amenities of life is something that a man on earth cannot live without. And so when you go to the West, number one, during the winter, snow falls in that place. And so a man who doesn't have a clothes on his body, snow will literally freeze the person to death. When you go to the West, a man who doesn't have a house, when winter comes, winter will literally freeze the person, or the person will die out of cold. But when you come in Africa, an African man can survive without a house. An African man can survive even without a clothes. One thing an African man can never survive without is food. The basic need of life for an African man is food. And that is why African is advantaged with the soil. Every part of African land is manure. When you go to England, when you go to the West, they are part of the nations where it is meant for agriculture, where you can plant and it will grow. But when you come in Africa, the whole land of Africa is fertile. So the advantage of an African man is food production. But an education system has been planted in Africa that truncated that food production by putting Western institutions all around us, banking, lawyer, and all stupid professions that has been given title and ego. And then you are pulled out from the village where you're supposed to produce food, and then they pay you 100,000 at the end of the month, which you will now be struggling even to buy food without. Have you asked yourself, why is it that an average monogamous man today have a wife and 4 children and he's struggling to feed just the 4 children, but your ancestors have 5 wives and 20-something kids and all of them are feeding comfortably? It's because your ancestors understand the principle of producing food we eat. I don't have pity, I don't have emotion for any young man who is complaining of hardship of life. I don't see him as a lazy-minded man. Number one reason of being a man is that you must grow the food. An African man is advantaged to go to his village and produce his food he will eat. This is our greatest advantage. And this is the reason why our ancestors, an average African ancestor is richer than the people we call bankers today and doctors today. Because even though he married many wives and many children, he's not struggling with what they will eat. There is already saturation of food. Because food production is the basic need of life, our ancestors understood. So a man is justified according to how his strength is in tilling ground. When you want to marry a man, they will ask you, how far can he till ground? I'm not talking, I have a farmland. You can, I will go and do live video on it in Oboka next week. You will see it. That's who I am. You need to follow me in this Light of Africa project where we will go back to food production. That's why when I talk about polygamy, my heart is solid. Because my grandfather practiced it. And I know how the food production goes. And so even me myself, I already have a very big farm. Follow me, let me go and show you. I can't speak something to entertain you. I am a man who is disciplined, foresighted, and knows what I'm pursuing. So when you see an average African man today struggling to provide food, it's because the man has lost the basic need of life. If you read Things Fall Apart, Untouchable was writing about a man called Onoka. He says Onoka is a poor man and a failure. What made Onoka a failure is because Onoka could not go inside the bush and cultivate. He says he's wary when it comes to providing food. He doesn't go to the farmland to cultivate, so he's poor. But there was a Okonkwo who wake up early and begin to cultivate. The problem we have today in Africa is that all our youth today are Onoka. But in the days of our ancestors, all the youth of our ancestors are in the category of Okonkwo, food production. But all the youth we have today in universities are Onoka. None of them have farmland. When I'm talking about marriage, their heart are skipping. You will see them writing under your comment section, in this economy, you are a fool. Don't you have a village where you're coming from? Don't you have a village where you're coming from where you can produce food? The problem starts when you are buying food in the market. The advantage of an African man, the basic need of an African man is food. You can be walking around naked and you will still survive. You can be walking around without a house and you will still be alive. The basic amenity of an African man is food. When we come back to polygamy, polygamy is automatic production of food. That's why I started early. You need to start. When you follow me in Light of Africa, one of the assignments that you must have a farmland. Must. No matter you are a doctor, doesn't matter. Doctor, I'm okay. One of the most intelligent man in our subgroup, he has a farmland. Many more people. If you don't provide your food, your salary will never be enough for you. I don't care what the work you are doing. Even if you are paid 400k, our ancestor is still richer than you. Go to my village and check. The last time I went to my village, I was doing video on a cocoa tree that my father planted. My grandfather have cocoa, over 100 trees of cocoa in the village today. If my grandmother today is feeding on that cocoa to take care of almost everything in the family with cocoa alone. The man has over 100 trees of cocoa. Don't even talk about pineapple. Those are men who understand the principle of food production. You are speaking big English, it doesn't solve problem. When I talk about polygamy, I know I can provide my food. I know when it becomes hard, I have a place where I can go in my village and start tilling the ground. Follow me with the lion heart. Stop doing love. Love will destroy your leadership. It will destroy the greatest destruction of a society is love and monogamy. We need to grow children. It was in our WhatsApp group yesterday. A young boy was talking in our WhatsApp group. 28 years young boy with 3 wives and 13 children. Come and see the testimonies. We are breeding men in Africa. When you meet light of Africa, your life will change. Your ideology will change. That thing you call dirty work, you begin to fall in love with it. We need to go back to our food production. That is the basic need of life. All the graduates we have today in Africa are onoka. Untouchable says onoka is a man who is weak in tilling the ground. I remember my dad told me that when I went to marry your mother, he says when I entered the compound of their grandfather, the first question he asked me was, can you till the ground? Can you till the ground, young man? You must not do it by yourself. You can pay money and they will do it for you. I'm telling you the truth. The one I cultivated, 1 ridge is 100 naira. They collected, I think that's about 100,000 to cultivate 1,000 ridges. And 1,000 ridges you planted cassava in can feed you with garri throughout the next year. You don't have sense. You think you want to buy money, you want to buy food with your money. If you feed 5 boys and they get comfortably, know that they are not light of Africa. You will be struggling for survival. Follow me, let me give you peace of mind. I have the soundness of ideology to restructure African problem. Follow me in this renaissance. Polygamy is our way of life. Food production is our basic need of life. I know I will engineer this renaissance in my revolution, in my own time. And